Want a fun and textured stocking? Stay tuned. Today we are going to be using the Wheat Stitch in the round to create this look of the Wheat Stitch stocking. Now I do have one that does vertical if you prefer that look. This look is a lot of fun as well. Today on camera, I'm actually going to be making this in 2 colors. So we're going to jump right into the yarn. I'm using the Brava Tweed. I've used these colors, especially these 3 colorways throughout the years for patterns for the last few years so that I have like matching sets based on color. So the stitches might be different, but I've got some matching sets going on based on using the same colorways. So I'm going to be making a striped one today on camera using these 2 colors. And I've also got it in some solids. Now I also did this year, I made one in the Hirschner Sparkle Holiday yarn, and it's super cute. This one, its colors change all by itself, and you don't know where they're going to change. So no 2 stockings will be alike. And that's some fun yarn to use as well. You can see it has that cute glitter sparkle in it. Now you'll also want to have a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook for this project. This is the Dots hooks, also by We Crochet. A tapestry needle to weave in those ends, scissors to cut them. This is the tab that I used here. So you can get some faux leather fabric, or you can find scraps of leather and just cut strips, and then I fasten them on with these fasteners. Now I did use a leather punch to punch these holes, and I'll show you how I do that as we get to the end of this pattern. And then if you want any labels to attach to your stocking as well. This is made from bottom up. So we're going to start with the toe, and then we're going to make this foot part. We'll make an opening for the heel, but come back later, and we'll continue on with the Wheat Stitch along the leg, and then we'll do the cuff and come back and last finish out with that heel. It's a really fun stocking pattern to do. It's classic. It's gorgeous. Let's jump in. Now to get started with the toe, we're going to create a magic ring or magic circle and place our hook inside of that. And we got to chain 1 the way I do the magic ring to make it complete. And now we're going to start by either chaining 1 for starting this round in half double crochets, or your very first stitch can be what's called a stacked single crochet, and that counts as your first stitch. So we are going to insert our hook into the circle, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on the hook, and then we're going to go back into this left bar, and then yarn over and pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through 2, and that completes that stacked single crochet. Now this is the very first stitch of the round, so it's not a bad idea, especially when we're working the round, to grab a stitch marker and mark the top of that stitch, because it can be easy to work into the side of it, and we don't want that. And now we're going to keep on going, and we're going to half double crochet 7 stitches inside this magic ring, and that means we will have a total of 8 stitches for round 1 of this toe. Now once we have our 8 stitches, we can grab the tail end of this magic ring and pull it closed. I like to leave a little bit of a gap until I have finished the next round. It just makes it a little bit easier to work into. And now we are going to move our stitch marker here. And we are going to join to the first stitch of the round. And I like to join through the back loop. I find that it hides it a bit better. But then when we start round 2, I'm going to be working through both loops. So we're going to start this very first stitch with a stacked single crochet. And then we're going to half double crochet into that same. So we've done an increase. If you need to, go ahead and mark the very first stitch of this round. And now we're going to be working 2 half double crochet stitches into the remaining stitches around, which means at the end of round 2, we will have a total of 16 stitches. So we're working 2 half double crochet stitches into each stitch around. Now at the end of round 2, we are going to join, and then we're going to start round 3. So we're going to do a stacked single crochet into the first stitch, and then half double crochet into the same. So we've done an increase into the very first stitch of this round, and then we are going to half double crochet into the next. And then we're going to be doing this repeat. We're going to do 2 half double crochets into the next, and then 1 half double crochet into the next. And as we repeat this around, we are once again increasing, and we're going to increase to a total of 24 stitches by doing that repeat at the end of round 3. Now for round 4, we're going to start with that stacked single crochet into the first stitch and then half double crochet into the same stitch, marking the very first stitch of this round. And then we are going to half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So our repeat around for round 4, we're still increasing. We're going to do 2 half double crochets into the next, and then half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And when we repeat that around for round 4, we will end our round with 32 stitches. So once again, that's 2 half double crochet into the next, half double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Now for round 5, we are going to start by doing a stacked single crochet in the first and then half double crochet into that same stitch. So the same way we're starting the previous rounds, doing that increase. And then we are going to half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So our repeat for this one is going to be to do 2 half double crochets into the next and then half double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. At the end of round 5, doing that repeat, we will end with 40 stitches at the end of round 5. Now for round 6, and we are going to start this round with that stacked single crochet and then half double crochet into the same, mark the top of the round, the first stitch of the round, and then we are going to half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. At the end of round 6, we will have increased to 48 stitches. So once again, the repeat that we are doing for round 6 is to half double crochet into the next, and then half double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Now for round 7, we're not going to be increasing. We're going to stick with 48 stitches for this stocking. So for round 7, we are simply going to start with doing a stacked single crochet in the first and then half double crocheting into each stitch around. So no increasing for round 7. We'll end with 48 stitches for this round. Now at the end of round 7, we are going to slip stitch to join and then turn. Now I'm going to be using the green yarn for my single crochet rounds. If you want a solid color, keep going solid. If you only want to change colors for the puff stitch rounds, then you'll change colors on rounds 3 and 4. But for me, I'm going to be changing colors. So I'm actually going to slip stitch to join with my new color. And then we are going to turn our work at the end of round 7 and chain 1 to begin round 8. Now we do have the wrong side facing for round 8, and that's how it should be. And for round 8, we are going to single crochet into the back loop only in each stitch around. So we're single crocheting into that back loop only for round 8. Now at the end of round 8, we are going to join with a slip stitch and then turn our work. And for round 9, we will chain 1. And then we are going to repeat round 8. We're going to single crochet into that back loop only for each stitch around, and that will be for round 9. Now at the end of round 9, I'm going to be changing colors back to the same color I'm using for the toe. So I'm just doing a 2 color here. And so I'm going to yarn over with my lighter color to change back to slip stitch to join. And now I'm leaving the insides, I'm just carrying the yarn up. I'm not going to cut to change colors because there's really just no need. No one's ever going to see the inside of the stocking. So you can leave your color changes floating up the inside and not have to cut every single time that you change color. So now we are going to be starting this next round, round 10, by turning our work. And now we're going to be chaining 1 to start this round, and we're going to skip the very first stitch of this round, and you want to make sure that you are not working into that slip stitch. So we're going to skip the first stitch and single crochet into the next. And then working back to that skip stitch, we're going to do a modified puff stitch. So we're going to yarn over and go into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, going into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. And now that we have 5 loops on our hook, we are going to yarn over and pull through the first 4. And then we will yarn over and pull through 2 to complete that modified puff. Be sure to mark the first stitch in the round if you need to. And then we're going to be doing this repeat all the way around. So we're going to skip a stitch and single crochet into the next. And then working back into the skip stitch, we will insert our hook, yarn over and insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and insert into the same skip stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then we will yarn over and pull through 4, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And that 2-stitch repeat will be our repeat all the way around for this round. So single crochet after skipping a stitch, work back into that skip stitch with a modified puff stitch. And we're not doing any increasing or decreasing for the stocking right now. This is going to be for rounds 10 and round 11. So everything we just did, we're going to be joining, turning, and doing the same thing for round 11. So I'm going to finish round 10 and show you round 11. Now at the end of round 10, we will join to the first stitch of the round with a slip stitch and turn, and then chain 1. And now we're going to skip the first stitch and single crochet into the next, which is a single crochet from the round below. And then working back into that skip stitch, which are working into that puff stitch from the previous round, we will work that modified puff stitch. And that's going to be the repeat around for round 11. And then until we get to the point where we are going to split for the heel, we're simply going to be doing a repeat of these last 4 rounds. So now we are going to be repeating rounds 8 through 11 2 more times. So we'll have 12 total rounds in the foot part of doing this wheat stitch repeat. So now we are at the point where we've finished the foot part of this and we are ready to split for the heel. Now I have joined and chained 1 and turned. So we are going to be working on the wrong side of the fabric for this round. And we are going to start by single crocheting in the back loop only for the very first 26 stitches of this round. So we're going to single crochet in the back loop only for 26. Now, after single crocheting 26 in the back loop only, we are going to chain 22. Now, if you want, you can make this a foundation row by doing foundation single crochets. It's really not going to make too big of a difference either way. So I'm going to chain 22 stitches. Now, after chaining 22, we are going to skip the last 22 stitches of this round, and we are simply going to join to the very first stitch of the round with a slip stitch. So we haven't changed the stitch count. Nothing has changed with the stitch count because when we have our 26 single crochets and our 22 chains, that's the same stitch count. So we're still at 48 stitches. We're just making this space here for the heel to come back and work later. So after joining, we are simply going to turn our work, chain 1, and now we are going to single crochet in the back loop only in each stitch around. And that's just working across these chain stitches. You can work in the back loop only at the top of the chain if you want. And we're just going to single crochet into each stitch all the way around in the back loop only. Now, after working round 21, we're back to working that puff stitch repeat. So for rounds 22 to 23, we're going to work that puff stitch repeat. And then rounds 24 and 25, we're going to be working that single crochet in the back loop only. And then we're going to be doing some repeats. So this is the leg of the stocking where we're just going to keep repeating what we did here. And we're going to do it through rounds 45 up here. So we're going to keep working in that stitch pattern repeat through rounds 45. Now, once we have worked all of these rows and we have the height that we need for the leg part, we can go ahead, if we're using 2 colors, we can fasten off the color that we're no longer going to be needing for doing the cuff at the top of this. So we're just going to be doing some ribbing here. We can tuck that in to weave in later. And this is where we've ended. Now you can see kind of a seam, especially when changing colors. It's less noticeable in one color. But this is on the back. It's not that noticeable anyway. It's on the back, so it's not going to show. And I have joined at the end of my last round, and now we are ready to work our ribbing. So we're going to start by chaining 10. Now we're going to tighten down the last stitch there. And in the second stitch from the hook, the second chain from the hook, we are going to single crochet. And then we are going to single crochet into each of the chains across. This means that at the end of row 1, because for this top ribbing, we're doing a join as you go ribbing, and we'll be working it in rows and joining it to the top of the stocking as we go to make this process quick. We don't want to have to sew things back on later. So after single crocheting down this chain, making sure we have 9 stitches here, we will be slip stitching the next 2 stitches. So we're going to go into the very first stitch, we're just going to slip stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch into the second stitch. And then we're going to turn our work. We're going to be skipping those 2 slip stitches and working in the back loop only. We will single crochet 9. So back loop only, single crochet 9 for row 2. Now, if you want, at the very end or beginning of each row, you can work through both loops to make that top edge just a little bit sharper. So the last stitch here, I'm going to work through both loops, and that just makes it slightly sharper on that top edge. Then we're going to turn our work again, and we're going to be repeating these rows. So I'm going to chain 1, and working in the first one, I'm going to work through both loops, but you don't have to, and then single crochet in that back loop only all the way down. And now that we're back down to this edge, we will slip stitch into the next 2 stitches, turn our work and skip those 2 slip stitches and work in the back loop only for 9. And that's it. We're just going to keep repeating those 2 rows until we work all the way around the top of the stocking. And then I'll come on back and show you how to join your very last row with the first row. So we'll just keep working those 2 rows. We'll turn our work, chain 1, and then we'll single crochet in the back loop only until we get to the edge, slip stitch 2, turn our work, skip the 2 slip stitches, and single crochet in the back loop only all the way back up. So quite simple. Now, once you've worked all the way around the top of the stocking with the ribbing, it's time to join it, and you can do this in a couple ways. You can chain 1 and slip stitch through the back loop of this first row, and then the back loop of the next row, the very first row that we worked. So our current row and our first row, and then we'll just simply yarn over and slip stitch those together, working that all the way down. Now, the other option that you can do, because your slip stitches will show on the outside here, is you can do the same method by flipping it inside out and putting the slip stitches on the inside, and that will look a little bit better. And then the third option you can do is you can fasten off and use your yarn needle. And lately, even though I'm not always fond of sewing, this has been my preferred way to do this. I think it's pretty clean, and you can hide that seam quite well. So to do the seaming, I'm simply going to be placing this side over that side. So we're lining up to make it look the same. And I'm going to come from up underneath the very first row and then up underneath the row, our current row, and pull that together. And then I'm just going to go down the stitch of my first row, down the stitch, or my current row, down the stitch of my first row, and we're just going to seam those together, and I think it looks quite nice. Honestly, this will be on the back of the stocking. This will be the side we really won't be seeing, so don't stress over it too much. Just make sure that we're joining those edges together, and then they look really nice, and we're ready to move on to that heel. Now for the heel, because we skipped 22 stitches and chained 22 stitches, we have a total of 44 stitches to work around here. We're going to be working in the round. So we're going to join our yarn to the bottom right here, or just at any corner, and we're going to be working some decreases. So we're going to look at this as the top of the heel and the bottom of the heel. We're first going to work along this side into this corner and then around the top side. So when we work our first repeat, we're going to be decreasing along this edge. So we're going to do a half double crochet 2 together for the first 2 stitches of this round and mark that first stitch of the round. And now we are going to half double crochet into the next 18 stitches. Now, after half double crocheting 18 stitches, we're going to half double crochet 2 together again. And now we're simply going to be repeating exactly what we did here by rotating our work and doing it along this side. Now, as we work around this other side, we will be creating a hole here. It just inevitably happens. It's just part of shifting to this other side. Now we can use our tail end to come back later and seam up the holes on each corner of this, and it will be less on the next round. This round will be the one that's most noticeable. Or we can also insert our hook along that corner and just pull up a loop to try to lessen that hole a little bit. And then we're going to start our repeat by doing a half double crochet 2 together on that corner. And then we're just going to keep on going with half double crocheting 18. And then we will half double crochet 2 together at the end of this round. And now at the end of round 1, we can half double crochet those last 2 stitches together. And then if we want, before yarning over, we can just grab the edge piece there and add an extra loop to try to pull in those corners so that we have a little bit less of a gap. And now we are going to join to the very first stitch of this round. And then we're going to be doing some repeats here of decreasing. So for round 2, we're going to start with a chain 1 and then half double crochet 2 together and place that stitch marker. And now that we've done our first decrease of this round, we are going to be working a half double crochet into the next 16 stitches, and then we will do a half double crochet 2 together, and then we'll be repeating all of that on the second side. So for each round, we're decreasing 2 stitches along the corners, along the edges here. And then for round 3, we're going to do half double crochet 2 together, half double crochet 14, half double crochet 2 together, and then repeat on the other side. And now we will continue decreasing in that way. We'll be decreasing by 4 stitches per round through round 5, and that will bring us to 24 stitches. So now that we have worked our 5 rounds and we have 24 stitches all the way around left, we're going to go ahead, join, and fasten off, leaving a tail end where we can seam this together. So we're just going to simply pull our yarn through, grab our yarn needle, and we are going to seam the remaining stitches together. So I'm going to go to where we left off at where we joined, and I am simply going to just place these sides of the heel together right here, and we're just going to be joining these stitches. Now you can do this with a whip stitch. You can just work back and forth between the stitches like a mattress stitch. The main thing is just to work the top 12 and the bottom 12, because we have a total of 24 stitches here. We're going to work all of those together all the way around. And now that we have closed that area, we can go ahead and weave in our end and fasten off, and that completes the heel area. Now we do have a couple of details I like to do at the top of the stocking. For one, we do need a way to hang this stocking, so we will need a tab. Now you can do an I-cord tab with yarn. You can use ribbon or fabric. I have these strips of leather. It's just scrap leather that you can purchase on Amazon or the fabric store. You can do faux leather or just scrap pieces of leather. And we can fold that in half, and I have a punch here to punch through this to create holes where then I can do the fasteners to attach it to the stocking. And now I have these little brads. I bought an entire set of them, which I keep around. I love having it in different colors so I can add them to projects as I want. But we're simply going to place this through those holes on the one side. And then on the side of our stocking where we want it to hang, we're going to push it through the stocking to the other side, and then put the other side of our tab. And like I said, you can stitch on ribbon, you can sew on ribbon, you can do an I-cord, whatever you like. Then I just add the back of that brad and then do the other one. And then I add my tag on it with my logo. I got this from an Etsy shop that no longer exists, unfortunately. Every single time I go to order these, I feel like I have to find a new shop. But there are lots on Etsy that can make custom tags. And then I like to add a little bit of twine to it because it matches my other items that I did in similar yarn that have some twine accents. And that way it just kind of completes out the set. But once again, you could do anything here. You could add a pom-pom, which is what I did to another one of the stockings that I made. So for this stocking, I added some twine, and then I threw a pom-pom on there because I thought it went really cute with it. You can add whatever you want if you want to, or just leave it as is to complete that stocking. Now, especially this time of year, so many of us will have cardboard boxes from orders we've done laying around, and you can take those boxes and place your stocking on top of the box and trace just around the stocking to make a cutout to insert inside. And the reason why I do this is it displays nicely. So the heel sometimes without anything in it will have some extra fabric to it because that's what a heel does. And our fabric here is just pushing that back. And when we put it inside something that holds it in place, then our heel will lay a little bit flatter. And this is what I mean by that. This one is a little bit flatter. Let me zoom out here. And now you can see the difference when I just shimmy some cardboard inside here. It's almost like blocking it. And you could spray a little bit of water and let it sit, and it would block those stitches even more for when you don't want the cardboard inside of it. But it makes it really nice. And I just want to note, you'll notice that I did turn at the end of each round on this heel. That's a personal preference. I ended up writing the pattern, working it in the round. But if you want to join and turn, feel free if you like a little bit more texture on that heel. There's really no right or wrong way when it comes to that. And then we have these gorgeous stockings to display. I really think the cardboard inside helps that displaying of the stockings wherever you hang them be great. Now, if you want a stocking that you're going to be putting a lot of weight into it. So I do take out the cardboard, and we do use these stockings on Christmas Eve to put little trinkets in for the kids. But if you wanted to be able to put a lot of weight inside a stocking, what you can do is fabric line it. So you would cut out fabric to the shape of this and sew it to that shape, and then stick it inside of your stocking. And then on the inside, you can stitch that fabric in place, and that will add extra durability to your stocking, because if you choose a fabric that's not stretchy, then it's holding all of the weight. And then this is just an outer shell to a stocking. And yeah, this is a great way to add some home decor to your holidays. It's also handmade, which makes it even better than anything you can buy at the store. I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial and come back for some more fun projects soon.